Hi, this is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
And you're listening to Unexplained Arkansas, a new podcast that explores urban legends, mysteries, and the unsolved in the natural state.
We're just two best friends discussing the unexplained in Arkansas.
Hello and welcome to Unexplained Arkansas. This is Amber.
And this is Lisa.
I was wondering if you were going to say your name or if I had to do it for you.
I said it.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. So how are you today?
I'm good.
Wait, we're not doing that. We're not bantering.
We're not bantering.
Yes, we're
bantering at the
banter-free.
end. No, we're bantering.
We're bantering at the end.
Banter at
yes,
end.
It
Business
been,
at end.
Yeah, I'm going to call this the Great Banter War. So there's some people that don't like our banter. They want us to get straight to the point. And so we may start doing that every episode now, which is story first and banter later. So stay for this, or come for the story, stay for the banter.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to just go ahead and get started because apparently that's what hacks people off if we don't. So what we're going to talk about today is Ozark Superstitions, which is, a big part of the folklore of our area. And if you are not familiar with Arkansas traditions, we are just brimming with superstitions. And, I remember as a little girl, my grandmother and my great-grandmother, who we called Nanny, they had lots of different superstitions and things that they truly believed in.
Cool.
Like we could not wash clothes at or on the first day of the new year. Did y'all do that too?
No, I've never heard of that.
You've never heard it? Okay. I thought
weird.
That was something that all normal people did this. Growing up, I lived with my grandparents and we would not wash clothes on the first day of the year. And I just thought that's what everyone did. And then, and then I said it to somebody when they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And also we had to eat black-eyed peas the first day of the year.
I've heard of that one.
Yes, that one is pretty well known.
And the collard greens or something, or cabbage.
Yeah.
It was always cabbage and I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, we mostly did the peas, on New Year's Day. And then of course we just, like I said, we never did laundry on the first day of the year.
Can I ask what happens? Yeah, what happens if you do?
Okay, so from everything I've gathered, of course I was young, but I think it's if you do laundry on the first day of the year, someone you love is washed away, quote unquote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So someone, I guess, in your family will pass or something like that, which that's
creepy.
It is. It's very creepy. Well, some of these things I'm going to be reading today are very creepy, but my grandmother wholeheartedly believed that. So the washing machine stayed off on January 1. Now, another thing that my nanny, which was my great grandmother, believed, and she believed in lots of superstitious things. I mean, she just was that type of person. And she told ghost stories all the time. But she always said that she always said that if you dreamt of fresh plowed fields, then someone was going to die. So if you, she was really into dreams having meaning and things like that.
I've never dreamt of fresh plowed fields. I can earnestly say that.
Yeah. Well, they pretty much worked as sharecroppers and things like that.
Okay.
And so that's probably where all that comes from. But she had a lot of those types of sayings and things about weird dreams. And so I grew up hearing this stuff and, believing, oh yeah, well, that's true.
Just
hope I don't dream like that,
just tonight. Don't do your wash on the first day of the year.
Yeah.
You're like, no problem. No worries. Not doing the wash.
Yeah. Me, no worries at all. That's great. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of that. My grandmother was born in the first decade of the 20th century. So this is about the time actually that that our guy we're talking about today, Vance Randolph, was running around the Ozarks interviewing people. And that's where all of my information and facts come from.
Okay.
I totally want to give a shout out to this dude that's been dead for like 50 years, but his name was Vance Randolph, and he was an Ozark culturist, a folklorist, and a writer. And he's the one that wrote the book that I am talking about today called Ozark Superstitions. And it was published the first time in 1947, though he had been collecting stories probably for most of the 30s and the 40s. He'd been collecting those stories.
And he has a great name, Vance Randolph.
I do like the name Vance. That reminds me of Reba. Oh, wait, we're sidetracking. We can't do that. Okay. No, wait, that's Van. Is it Van or Van?
I don't know.
Anyway, okay, so Vance Randolph, and this is from the Encyclopedia of Arkansas.
Okay.
Vance Randolph, of course, like I said, was a folklorist, and he studied the traditional culture of the Ozarks, and that's what made him famous. He was very popular to read from the 1930s and 40s until present day. Still, folklorists today will look at Vance Randolph's work when they are, reading and writing about folklore from this time period in the South. Now, Vance Randolph,
did he have like notoriety outside of the South, or was it just in the South?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he toured a lot.
Okay.
It looks like he went from college to college and spoke about us, about Arkansas people and Missouri people, basically.
Ozarkians, maybe?
Yes. Who he would lovingly refer to as hillbillies. And we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
So, just backing up a little bit, Vance Randolph was born on February 23rd, 1892 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, which I didn't know there was a Pittsburgh, Kansas. So that's interesting. And his dad was a politician. His mom was a public school teacher, and he was the eldest of 3 sons. So long story short, he dropped out of high school and started publishing his writing. And which I'm not saying that's a great idea, but he obviously got lucky. But he ended up going to college anyway.
Okay.
And yes, so he graduated from that local college there near Pittsburgh, Kansas, and it's now Pittsburgh State, and he graduated in 1914. Then he had a very short career in academics where I think he worked in getting another degree or whatever, and he didn't quite finish his doctorate, but he went out for it and started working on it. Now, this is where his life kind of takes a big drastic change. In the 1920s, he moves to the Ozarks, and that's where all of this starts. That's where his journey as this major Ozark folklorist begins. Yeah. Pretty interesting. Yeah. So this book that I'm looking at today is one of his first major works, and it's called Ozark Superstitions, and it was published by Columbia University Press and then reissued again as Ozark Magic and Folklore in 1964. And you probably have seen this book before. It's always in our local libraries, the Ozark Magic and Folklore. I've seen it several times. I've looked at it. It's got different things in it than Ozark Superstitions, so I don't know why they said it was a reissue, because there's different stories in it. But he also had several major works, which I won't go into, but just trust me, he did.
Okay.
So
I'll take your word for that.
So yeah, he wrote several books, and this is just the first of a few times I'll mention him over the next couple of months, because I am doing a deep dive into Arkansas folklore, and this is just episode 1 of, I think, several episodes down the road. Yep,
and
definitely.
I think you have mentioned him in your other folklore.
Yeah, I have.
Yes, I remember his name because it's so cool. So,
yeah. Okay, so folklore in itself, we've talked about what folklore is, and again, according to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, because I have to name my source, I love using them. They're like my favorite. But it represents a society's unofficial culture. So it's things that are passed between people and different groups. And it's like I said, an unofficial culture, and it encompasses material that is in the vernacular. And you know what in the vernacular means, which is the language spoken by a particular area. And also, you know, local architecture, arts, crafts, belief systems, all that stuff. Yeah. Customs, all the things. So a lot of folklore is oral tradition, and that's kind of what Randolph did. He just kind of went from place to place and interviewed people, and he worked as a sports writer to pay the bills, and then he did this on his off time. So all the things I'm talking about today are actually situations he ran into during his journeys around Arkansas and southern Missouri. So if you know about the Ozarks, you know that it's northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. And does Oklahoma have a little bit of the Ozarks too?
Possibly.
I don't know.
I'll look that up. I know it's,
yeah.
I don't think so, but I believe it's all northern Arkansas, southern Missouri.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is the setting. Now he does refer to hot springs several times in the book. Now I've read most of the whole book, and he and it's a good read. It's a quick read. It's kind of funny because there are certain things in there you're like, people believed what? And you have to remember, this is about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not talking like 300 years ago. We're talking 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And people still believe stuff like this.
Like you can't do the wash on the first day of the year.
And yeah, I mean, it apparently that's kind of stuff that was talked about all over the place when my great grandmother was little, which would have been in the 1920s, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing that he says is that, well, not the first thing, but one of the coolest things that he says is that nearly all of the people, this is according to him in the Ozarks, are firm believers in ghosts and what he calls wandering spirits.
Okay, the Ozarks does wander into Oklahoma.
I thought it did.
And
you know, I taught a little geography. Really? I didn't know the Kansas part.
It says the extreme southeastern corner of Kansas. So yes.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just the Ozark Mountains, Ozark Highlands, or Ozark Plateau. So yes.
Interesting.
True story. And if you're from one of the countries, you can watch the Ozark show on Netflix and get in.
Oh gosh, don't send them there. Don't send them there.
Yes,
that's
sure.
for all of us.
It's so Ozarks. No. It's the Missouri side.
Well, you know, and I will say this, and, you know, I thought about it. How can I characterize and describe the Ozarks, you know, like being in a place like, let's say, Carroll County and Eureka Springs at dusk, and when you hear the frogs and you hear all that, I mean, it's just, there's
really
just,
beautiful.
Yeah. It's beautiful, but it's like this beauty and this,
it's
a little eerie. It's just indescribable, you know, the Ozarks, you know, when you get into the late afternoon, early evening hours. Because, you know, I lived up there for years when I was in college. And, you know, I went to Eureka a lot because it was just an hour from where I went to college. So I just remember loving it up there. Just so I can understand Vance Randolph being, you know, so enamored by this area. In fact, he died in Eureka Springs. That's where he,
I meant to ask, where did he actually reside?
Most of the time he was in the southern Missouri part, but eventually he migrated down to the Arkansas side.
And died in Eureka.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it'd be, you know, while we're on one of our little grave trysts, it'd be fun to find out where he is. I'd like to see where he's buried.
We'll put it on the list.
And, put it on the list of graves we're going to weirdly seek out.
This summer.
All right. This summer, yes. Oh, yeah. We've got so much of that to do this summer.
Yes.
Okay, so back to the story, because we can't bird walk. You know, we have to stay straight ahead, looking straight ahead with blinders on. So, all right. So, like I said, according to Randolph, there were a lot of superstitious people in the Ozarks. And when he said a lot, he meant a lot. Because, like I said, he wrote a whole volume of superstitions that he collected over that couple of decades that he did his research. And, you know, this is anywhere, he said, from children to adults. They love to tell ghost stories. And like I said, I think that's true because my great grandmother loved to tell ghost stories and she loved to scare the crap out of everybody. And, she was barely, pardon me, but she's barely literate, but she loved to tell a good story. She also liked listening to really weird music. Like, I can't describe it. There was a band called the Wilburn Brothers, which was kind of a country folk group. And they had a song that was a country hit that was about a dead girl. It was about a murder. And she'd go around and yeah, she loved that song. When she found a song she liked, she would listen to it and write the lyrics down, like from listening to it. Yeah, because they didn't have tapes where you could see the lyrics. Yeah. So we have all these old volumes. Yeah, we have all these old volumes of where she had written these. No Google, right? So she wouldn't forget the lyrics when she would hear it. She'd try to write them down. So we have like all these old papers of her writing down these old lyrics from these songs that she liked.
So she would have liked our podcast because she liked murder and ghost stories.
She liked murder. Yeah, I think she would have. Yeah, and the song was Knoxville Girl, by the way, and it's about a murder, and like, it's a crazy song. I've listened to it, and there's some very old recordings on Spotify, but that was one of her favorite songs. And in her writings, after my grandmother died, I found these writings, and I found she had just transcribed all the words to these songs. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But like you said, there was no Google and they didn't even have the lyrics, inside tapes or records or whatever back then. So there you go. Pretty neat fact. But yeah, so she was definitely part of this culture. And I guess that's why I like it. I guess that's why I like to study it, because she was such a neat person. She was eccentric as all get out, but she was so neat. And I never understood exactly where the weirdness came from, but now I do, because I think they all had these little superstitions.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go on. What was the purpose of swapping these supernatural tales, do you think?
For fun, because it's fun. Everybody wants to hear like a ghost story or anything like.
Yeah. Randolph did say that this happened at parties and card playing and dancing and quilting bees and things like that. So it's very true.
Like something from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah. Well, the
whatever it was.
Oh, now I'm not a Gilmore Girls watcher, so you have to explain it.
Knitting. Oh, you're not. It's just the Stars Hollows where the Gilmore Girls lived. It was just this quaint little town, and they did things like that. I mean, it was just always something that you would think would come from like the olden days. Like the whole town would get together and have like a quilting fest. I don't know. Anywho,
or a knitting circle. Yes. So. Yeah. Okay. So, so just to kind of let's start. I kind of ordered these in the way I wanted to talk about them. The first thing I want to talk about is the straight out ghost stories that they had. And one thing that people in this area, or in the Ozarks, didn't want to do was walk through graveyards at night. That was a no-no. The writer was talking about, several people had told him that you just don't do that. And, that they'd never known a ghost actually hurt anybody, but they don't want them, quote unquote, following them around. So, because like I said, a lot of these are quotes from people. So yeah, a lot of people didn't want to go to ghost laden places like graveyards and houses that were known to be haunted. They didn't want to test fate, whereas people today, that's a tourist attraction. Back then they tried to stay away from those kinds of places. So, but
they just wanted to talk about it.
They just wanted to talk about it. Yes. Now there's several stories. One account he got from Benton County, Arkansas. It's a family who had they said a ghost living in their house, and she was an old she had been an old maid in the house, and she wore a bonnet and some kind of cape, and she was easily recognized in the distance. And, they saw her all the time, and she would never make any noise. She wouldn't disturb anybody. And supposedly she had died at the time of the Spanish-American War, and was still seen as of the 1940s. Like I said, this is in Benton County, but he doesn't specify where. So I'd love to know exactly where this house was. But this is what was so funny. Randolph said that the children of the home were told never to laugh at her or to bother her in any way. Like, kids, leave the ghost alone. So, yeah. It was said that strangers would come to the farm just to see her, and her name was Sissy. Isn't that a Southern name?
It is.
Sissy. Yes. And they would see Sissy from a distance, and sometimes people would come in not knowing Sissy was a ghost and think she was just somebody just trotting around out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then also someone tried to photograph Sissy one time, but they never could catch her in the photographs. There are no photos of Sissy the ghost. So, yeah. So there's another story of two villagers who had to pass a burying ground, and this is burying ground on their way home from Sparkin, is what he said. So two guys, coming home on their way from Sparkin, some quote unquote country girls, and on several occasions they would see a gigantic white bird just flapping around the tombstones, like a swan or a pelican or something like that. And they said that this happened every night until they said, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And what's the matter with you? And the great bird actually said, I'm lost and tortured in hell. I'm lost and tortured in hell. Oh yeah. These are crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And then they said the bird flew away to the south and was never seen again. I don't know whether to laugh or be like, oh my God. That is like
it
crazy.
Probably landed in Louisiana.
I think those two guys may have been snockered when they walked past the cemetery. So I don't know
who these country girls were.
I don't know. But they were country girls. Okay, so another guy he interviewed said that that they believe that when a moth lingered about, it was thought to be the spirit of a deceased family member. And this was pretty common. This was
that is really freaky that you said that, because a few days ago in art, were you here? Someone was here. Okay, I don't know. Elle was coming or going. We had a huge moth. Like huge.
I was there that night because I remember you freaking out about it. Yes, it was me.
It was huge. Remember it? It was a huge moth. I told you to take
a picture, remember? And yes, I think for some reason you didn't. Yeah,
maybe I didn't. I mean, it looked like something from Silence of the Lambs. It really did. It was huge.
I could have used that for my moth collection. I used to. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay, Buffalo Bill.
So the general consensus was that moths could possibly be a dead person, while also they thought, and then when I say they, I mean some people in the Ozarks. Not everybody was like that, so don't write me a letter and say my great-great-grandma was a God-fearing woman. She didn't believe any of this nonsense. I bet you $10 she did. Because mine did.
Because Amber's great-grandmother was also God-fearing and believed it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, she just had a little Stevie Nicks going on. Okay.
Like so, you do.
Yes, I guess that's true. So the general feeling was that lost souls and demons could also possess the form of a bird or an animal. And
creepy.
That's kind of creepy. It is. Definitely. Now, in many parts of the Ozarks, and I thought this was very interesting, in many parts of the Ozarks, Randolph said that there were tales of moving lights, which usually appeared in like cemeteries and things like that. And they would call them graveyard lights Go figure. Graveyard lights.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch. And they were seldom seen at regular intervals. I can't talk tonight. Or by large numbers of witnesses, but reports of them are fairly common nevertheless. Yeah. So he does say that there is an area for sure on Highway 23, and this is in Taney County, Missouri, that has what he called foxfire lights by a burying ground. And sometimes these lights will be reported as bluish. And then Randolph goes on to say that he actually went to that graveyard himself, waited for hours, 3 nights in a row, but saw nothing. So he's sad to report nothing. There was not a struggle.
Maybe it's just like one of those things that, only superstitious people can see. Or maybe it's seasonal.
Yes, seasonal.
Well, like the Northern Lights. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so while we're talking about departed spirits, these people living in the Ozarks at the time did think that people that came back preferred to be in the dark of the moon, quote unquote.
Like, so, what do you mean come back? Like come back from the dead, or like reincarnated?
I'm assuming, hey, I'm just reading what I found.
Nice.
It says there is a rather general idea that departed spirits, when they return to Earth, prefer to appear in the dark of the moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is believed that the dead, if they can't rest in their graves, are somehow inclined to loiter about redbuds, pawpaw trees, and they don't know, or he said they don't know why they're attracted to those particular plants, but they are.
I don't even know what a pawpaw tree is. I'm going to have to look it up.
I have no idea.
It up.
Yeah. Another common notion is that the persons born on Halloween are more likely to see ghosts and talk with them than persons that are born on other days.
Okay.
I don't know anybody born on Halloween.
No, my aunt Lou. And she loves Halloween. Lou. If she's
okay.
Yeah. I'll ask her if she's ever seen a ghost. But she is really into Halloween because it's her birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make me really into Halloween.
Okay, this pawpaw tree is kind of, I'll have to post. I'll just post what one looks like.
Yeah. So several old timers also told Randolph that if you can address a ghost with the words "in the name of God," the apparition will be powerless to do any harm. And I've heard that before. Other people think it's safer to cry out "in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost." What do you want? You got to add that. What do you want? What do you want?
What do you want? Like attitude.
Well, that's what the guys with the flopping bird, remember, said. What do you want? If the thing is a witch or a demon, it will vanish when the sacred names are pronounced. If it is simply a restless, unhappy spirit, it will return a civil answer in plain English and depart. Golly, this is creepy.
That is creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should have told these stories like in a graveyard.
There's still time.
Yeah. So that's their graveyard beliefs or whatever. And that's not, the creepiest things that I read. So there you go.
It's getting worse. Creepier.
Yeah. Oh, this is worse.
Okay.
So they believe that if someone was murdered in any way and blood spilled on the floor and they didn't get it all cleaned up, that blood would become fresh again every year on February 2nd. Or on the date of the peddler's death.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait.
Like February 2nd, isn't that Groundhog's Day?
I don't know.
I think so.
It said a very common backwoods tale concerns a cabin where a peddler or a traveler is supposed to have been murdered many years ago. So it's just that dude. Okay, so he was murdered on February 2nd. There was a big blood spot on the floor, and this became wet with fresh blood every year on February 2nd, the date of the peddler's death. A man sitting in this house on February 2nd would see weasels, skunks, minks, wolves, and even deer dash in at the open door, plunging into the big fireplace and vanish up the chimney. He said, "I have heard this story perhaps 25 times." Wow. That's a story.
Kind of like a backward Santa or like a really bad Santa. I don't know. Isn't there a movie called Bad Santa? I don't know.
No, but I like the idea of a movie called Backwards Santa. Okay, so here's another one that I thought was cool. So this is an Alma. Do you say Alma or Alma? It's Alma, right? Alma, Arkansas.
We went to Alma, and I say Alma, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's Alma. I don't really know.
I don't know either. And I used to pass there all the time on my way to Fayetteville. So I'm going to go with Alma, and I'm telling this story. So, all right. So
they have a really nice gym in Alma, and their colors are green.
Oh, cool. Okay. So in Alma, apparently, according to Vance Randolph, dude was passing a deserted house one night when he saw a strange woman in a long white robe standing at the gate.
That could be anybody, like Amber. Sorry.
I was fixing to say, that's me throwing my putting my trash out on the curb at 3 a.m.
Yes.
A little fuzzy white dog. Oh no, it's you.
Oh, it's me.
Fuzzy white
Paris.
A little fuzzy white dog ran out in front of him, and it seemed to be barking, although he heard no sound. Now that's creepy. The boy threw a stone at the dog and was astounded to see the animal separate into two parts. Yeah. Okay, so the stone, I guess, passed through. So he talked the matter over with somebody and then agreed that it was some kind of warning of impending evil. So he went back and he said he saw the ghost dog again and he had one of his eyes gouged out.
Ew.
True story.
That's your dog. Amber's dog has a weird eye.
Yes. Okay. We don't like animals being hurt or have one eye, but this is a ghost dog.
We love our dogs.
Yes, but babies. My dog did develop we used to live by the river, and she did develop a tick-borne illness, and because of that, she only has one good eye, and so that's what Lisa's referring to. But she's in no pain. Don't worry. She's in no pain.
Post a picture of Annie's eye.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to.
She only looks at you with that eye.
Yeah, when we take her to the vet on the regular, okay? So, and there's really nothing we can do except stare at her glass eye.
Yes.
So.
Glassy eye.
Yes. So he goes on to talk about what he says are signs and omens and household superstitions. Omens and household superstitions. And I'm not reading every little thing because this book is really long. So I went through it and I just kind of picked some that I really liked or I really thought were funny or just weird. And you tell me, Lisa, if you've heard some of these before.
Okay.
Have you ever heard about dropping a broom or a broom handle falling on the floor?
No.
Okay, so a mountain housewife, this sweet little mountain town, that reminds me of like South Park. I don't know why. Okay, so the mountain housewife is careful.
Reminds me of South Park.
Punch
Sorry.
and pie.
Okay.
The mountain housewife is careful never to drop a broom so that it falls flat on the floor, and it is doubly unfortunate for a woman to step over a broom handle. Now, I think I have heard that one. People say that when a girl, even a very young girl, steps over a broom, she will be a slovenly housewife for life.
That's
what happened. That's what happened to me. I must have stepped over several broom handles.
And I've never used a broom. I like a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I pulled a few more that I thought were fun because they were about May 1st. And of course, May 1st was what, yesterday?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So many of the old folks think that May 1st is the proper day to shed heavy winter underwear. So if you...
Wait. So, like you still would have it on and you need to like remove it.
I don't know.
Or throw
there was
it
no
away.
Context.
Okay.
He wrote it like we would know what he was talking about.
Oh, great.
So I just kind of whatever heavy.
Listeners, call us in and let us know about this.
It's probably
underwear.
long johns. It's probably long johns.
Yeah.
I used to watch this movie called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and this was about this time period, and they all wore long johns in the movie. Actually, to tell you the truth, I think my grandpa wore long johns. Yeah, so that's probably what winter underwear is.
I've worn, those, what are they called? The lady long cuddles. I
have no idea where you're going with that. Sorry, I can't help you.
What are they called? They're like, cuddle duds. I've worn, I used to, when I was really young and skinny and cold, you needed to wear them underneath your clothes. Yeah. I don't know. Or skiing. I would wear some, they have ski wear. So
yeah. Well, no, this is winter underwear.
Okay.
So
winter underwear.
And then also on May 1st is when the kids could start going barefoot. Just so you know.
Oh. I think, okay, for real, that supposedly walking around barefoot, like in dirt's really good for you and whatnot, but that is not one of my favorite things to do. Although I did that when I went to my dad's, I will say he has the best yard, like the best yard. Him and my stepmom have this beautiful grass and no stickers, and it's soft. So I did walk around barefoot in their yard.
And so what is that? You're supposed to be becoming more like one with the earth? Is that what that is?
Well, it's supposed to be like the minerals and such in the dirt is supposed to be like really good for you. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I've never really been into dirt, but it's supposed to be. It's dirt. What is it? Dirt don't hurt. I've heard that one.
Dirt don't hurt. Yeah, I've heard that. Okay, so the next one, if a housewife's nose itches, it means that some unexpected company is on the way. And if the itching is on the right side, it's a man. On the left, it's a woman.
Okay.
Yeah. So if your nose itches, somebody's coming with a hole in their britches is the...
A hole in their... What's all this underwear talk? I mean...
I don't know.
Seems like a fetish, fascination.
I don't know. Hey, you would be very shocked what's in this book. Some of it I can't repeat because it's not PG-13. So,
okay.
Yes. So here's another one.
We'll
Among the old timers. Yes. When one person gives a neighbor something to eat or drink, the housewife returns the vessel unwashed. So So if the neighbor gives someone a plate of food, that person's supposed to give the plate back unwashed.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, because nowadays you would never do that. Yeah, you would never.
Yes. Well, and then here's another one. If two people use the same towel at the very same time, there would be a quarrel or some kind of difficulty. And the saying with that is wash and dry together, weep and cry together.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of a fun jingle.
It is. In case two people would accidentally dry their hands at the same time on the same towel, they would twist the cloth between them.
Okay.
And that was supposed to take the cuss off it. Whatever that means. Take the cuss off. Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, I know. It's just, and like I said, I could do this for, I told you this should be like a 2-3 parter because there's so many of these. It's crazy. Okay. So when you meet a cross-eyed woman at a place where the road forks, this one was a freaky one. If you ever see a cross-eyed woman at a place where the road forks, this reminds me of Donnie Darko. Always spit in your hand or on the ground and make a cross in the saliva. Boy, that's a lot.
Okay, so that's funny. So you thought of Donnie Darko, but I think of like the National Lampoons. He's like, where he talks about his daughter's eyes got crossed and then she got kicked by a mule. I don't know. Anyway, Cousin Eddie, anyway.
Yeah.
I think of him.
Okay, so you're supposed to make a cross out of the saliva.
Ew.
And then one fellow told me that he always spit in his hat on such occasions and let the cross go by. Some say it is well to cross one's fingers and count 10 backwards. Also.
How many times do they come across a cross-eyed woman at like a fork in the road? Like, is this like common?
It was common enough to make it in this book.
Oh my goodness. That's weird.
Yeah.
That poor woman. It's probably the same woman. Same fork in the road.
Yeah, but a lot of these have to do with women too. So there you go.
The root of all evil, right? We are.
Yes. So, like, never pick up a spoon lying in the road, because women who are unlucky in household affairs. So now this is particularly unlucky in household affairs. Sometimes throw away a spoon, believing that their bad luck will pass to the person who picks up the spoon. Yeah.
Trying to pay it forward in a not nice way. It's interesting with a spoon. Spoon throwing.
Yes. And then, just to kind of quickly go through a few of these, like, actually, this one is so funny. We're not going quick on this one. One of them, we'll go quickly, is about cornbread. And there was a lot said about cornbread.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things was, you do not cut it with a knife, you have to break it off. And I'm sorry, we just didn't do that.
I mean, that's crumbly. No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I love cornbread, though. The sweet cornbread, the Jiffy.
I do too.
Cornbread.
Yeah. But speaking of eating, you are not I can't say this without laughing. You're not supposed to eat or drink at the same time that you urinate or quote unquote defecate, because it is very bad luck.
I mean, I would hope not. What is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what?
He said, I've known children to be severely whipped when the mother caught them eating candy while they were going to the bathroom.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yikes. And the mom would say, he said, and I quote, they would be feeding the devil and starving the Lord. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is also, there's also a persistent notion in that area that, is about stepping on cracks. So
I've heard of that one. You don't break your mama's back.
Yes. Some people think that a boy who fails to miss the cracks in the schoolhouse steps will fail in his lessons that day and probably be punished for it. Other hill folks say that by stepping on cracks, a boy does some injury to his parents. And I've heard children quote the rhyme, put your foot onto a crack and you will bust your mother's back.
Yes. So that one has, like lived on past these.
Step on a crack and break your mother's back.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting that, this whole talk of cornbread or urinating or defecating while you eat did not make it, but, interesting. But that step on a crack definitely, made it. So everybody knows that one.
Yes. Okay, so this one... Yes. Oh, we're getting to the black cats. Don't you worry.
Okay.
So it is better to put your left shoe on before your right.
Okay.
You do this, Lisa. Put your left shoe on first.
I'm a lefty, but I'm also ambidextrous. But typically I do put on my right shoe first.
Okay. Well, according to the Ozarks 100 years ago, you're supposed to put your left one on first.
Why?
They don't say. I have no idea.
Do they say what happens if you don't?
No, they just say put the left shoe on first. I put my right shoe on first.
I put my right
I'm
on.
Right-handed. Yeah,
but I'm not, but I still do. So weird.
Yeah. So okay. All right. So there is some sort of sign that has to do with the flame of a candle. Actually, there were several that had to do with candles, but there's one superstition that means that has to do with letters. Like if you see a certain sign in a candle, that means a letter is coming, and like a letter in the mail.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's actually an old song called "The Letter in the Candle," which is, I guess, apparently
sounds like it was written by that Crystal Gale. Sounds like it would be on your playlist.
Yes. Anyone new to our podcast, I love some Crystal Gale, and Lisa does not. And so, she loves to refer to Crystal Gale anytime I say country music. So,
yeah,
even though it's not 1987.
Whatever.
Okay.
It feels like it in your car sometimes. Okay.
Okay. So, an Ozark man shouldn't. Let me back up. An Ozark man is courting misfortune. He's courting misfortune if he moves his family from one house to another in the dark of the moon. So you cannot move at night.
Well, I would think that a given, but
yeah,
it seems like if you're moving at nighttime, then you're probably like there's something weird maybe going on. You always
exactly, because he goes on to talk about how in the case of a fire, you're still supposed to like sleep out in the yard or something. Actually, sleep in the wagon or under a ledge. Yeah, you're not supposed to change to a different venue if something happens to your house.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So if you find your initials in spider webs near the door of a new home, it is a sign that you will be lucky as long as you live there. No, it's a sign that Charlotte has taken up residency.
Do you have Wilbur as well? Oh, I would love a Wilbur. How cute.
Yes. Yes. So it has lots of things about like bugs and insects. There's a whole section about bugs and insects, but I don't like insects like at all. So I didn't like spend a lot of time reading about the insects because they just gross me out.
Yeah.
But I did read about the stray cats and the black cats. So during that time, most people thought that it was good luck if a strange black cat visits the house, but very bad luck if the animal takes up that as its permanent residence. So it could be good luck if a strange black cat comes to visit, but if he says, y'all, I'm living here, then that's bad luck.
What if it's black and white?
I don't know. They just say black cat. So also, to carry a stray cat into a house brings bad luck. So I guess if the cat comes strutting in on its own, that's good luck. But if you carry the cat in, it's bad luck.
Well, it's bad luck for me because I'm allergic. So.
Yes, yes. And of course, it is, okay to drive a cat away, but you cannot give it any kind of cruel treatment, which is good. I'm glad they thought that. You're not supposed to be cruel to him, but you are never supposed to, when a cat passes away, the way that you bury it is important. Apparently, according to them, you are supposed to bury it very deep in the ground. And they don't say why for that. So don't ask me why. I don't know.
So you don't have a pet cemetery issue going on? Church?
I'm assuming that this is a church situation. I'm not sure. But let me again remind the listeners that this book comes from actual interviews that this guy did
in the 1930s and 40s. Way before Stephen King wrote Pet Cemetery.
Yes.
Interesting.
So there is varying signs about the sights of cats. And, some people say it's good luck to see a white cat. But everybody agrees it's a bad sign to see a black cat that crosses ahead of a traveler. Now that one has stood the test of time. Yes. Yes. People do think black cats do have a bit of bad luck associated with them. In fact, for a while, it was hard for shelters to adopt out black cats. So
it's such a stigma, and it's so terrible. Cue Sarah McLachlan.
Yes, but there are some people that don't think that, of course, now.
Well,
but back then, go ahead.
I am allergic to cats anyway, but I will say me and Daryl have been crossed, and we've literally turned around.
I guess that is
I guess we are superstitious.
Well, and that's kind of the beauty of folklore and superstition. It's ingrained in us, whether we know it or not. Ask me if I do laundry on January 1st. The answer is no.
But do you do it on the 2nd? No,
probably not. Yes, but yeah. He does talk about people as far down as Little Rock, he said, that take off their hats and turn them around on their heads after seeing a black cat cross their paths.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But he said that people are pretty leery of cats around that area anyway. Yeah. So
Paris just jumped in my lap.
Well, she doesn't like cats either.
She hates all animals, by the way.
Yes.
Equally. She's just equally hateful to all animals.
Well, okay, so it is very bad luck to be photographed with a cat. I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble.
Yes.
Does it mean that you don't want the cat taking your picture, or?
No, it's not. The cat can't take your photo. It's like the cat can't be in the photo.
I'm joking. But that's funny that you mansplained that.
Yes. But that does solve a riddle because, I collect old photos And, I have, remember, since high school, I've collected old photos. And I have never found one with somebody and a cat. It's very rare when you could. I'm sure I could Google it and find one. But
just think of all the people down the line that are going to find your pictures with your cat.
I know. Yeah. But it's a rarity if you can find someone for one of those sitting portraits
with a cat
that has a cat in their lap, because that was considered, that was a superstition thing that was considered bad luck. So
didn't the Egyptians love cats?
Yes.
And get their...
The Egyptians, yes, they did love cats.
And a lot of the, drawings had cat. Anyway, moving forward. Interesting.
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about healers. Now, we are going to do a whole episode on folk healers and, Ozark medicine, mountain medicine, things like that. So I left all of that in the book for next time.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's just a few little things about healers that I found. And one of them is that healers they believed that night air was poisonous, and they would advise their patients to shut every door and window tight when they were sick and they were trying to get over something. Now, I could probably see this if malaria was going around and we didn't want to get mosquitoes in or anything like that. That's just common sense. But yeah, so they thought the night air might be poisonous. Again, this is some people, not everybody. Yeah. And then it goes into talking about black-eyed peas for dinner on New Year's Day. So that, like I said, was one that my great-grandmother believed in. And he said, this is Randolph, said that he knew country people who would ride a long way to get those peas for New Year's dinner. Even though they did not even like to eat peas, they would go and find them.
I don't like black-eyed peas.
I don't, but I always eat them on New Year's.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And this may explain the laundry, this part. Perhaps the most striking feature of the Ozarkers' New Year's behavior is their reluctance to allow anything to be taken out of the house on January 1st. Yeah. And he said, I once knew... Like the laundry. He said, I once knew a woman who absentmindedly carried a bucket of ashes out on New Year's morning. She was shaking and almost to the point of hysteria, and the whole family was horrified, although no one seemed to know exactly why. So there you go.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's some good stuff right there. So
yes.
I'm going to save some of it. The last thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about because we're going to save some of the marriage stuff for another episode, and also like the beauty treatments. The beauty treatments will be for part 2, because I found a ton of beauty treatments and things that people did, including putting cow dung stuff on their faces.
Oh yeah,
it gets wild. that needs to be a whole episode on its own.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want to, for next time, yeah. But if you want to read about it on your own, it's in the book. So, and I will put the book out there. It's hard to find, but you can actually get it in the Internet Archives that I will be sharing. So at archives.org, you can find a copy of the book. It is that old that it's in archives. Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about were the professional fortune tellers in the Ozarks at the time. And we've talked about a couple of those on this show. We talked about one a couple of weeks ago, but Randolph does visit several of these during his time in the Ozarks, and he talks to them and, asks them about their services. And most of the time, the fortune tellers would not sell their services because that was poor form. And they would instead, get trades and things like that.
Donations.
Yes, donations, things such as that. Yes. And, of course, we're talking about a very superstitious area. And so if they're afraid of a black cat, of course, they're going to be afraid of, other things that are probably in that realm. So the people in that time would read cards, tea leaves, they would crystal gaze, they would partake in palmistry and things like that. And I think we talked about Angie Paxton, didn't we?
Yes.
She was one of the most famous Ozark fortune tellers. He talks about her again in this book because she would look at coffee grounds in a cup that was, quote unquote, shook up by the customer. Yeah. And then there was another one named Josie Forbes, who was in Wayne County, Missouri, who was called the Witch of Taskey. And she would sit at a table with the clients and make 4 dots with a pencil on a piece of paper. And she marked them north, east, south, and west, or actually N, E, S, and W. So I'm assuming it's the 4 directions. And around these. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yes. So if you like this type of thing, episode 12, go back to episode 12. Creepy Arkansas folk tales.
Yes, we talk about Angie Paxton in almost an entire episode. Yes. So yeah. So her readings, and this is the Witch of Taskey. Her readings were unusual, and she would diagnose obscure diseases and, recommend various herbs and things like that. And they did, both her and Angie Paxton would talk about love and marriage and, of course, that kind of thing. So, so there you go. Yeah. So that was another pretty superstitious, belief system they had. Nothing wrong with it. And there's some people that regularly visit psychics, and that's cool too. It's whatever, it's like you do you know.
I hear on the street that aren't baseball players really superstitious, or typically, like they do certain things and don't want to lose games. I mean, I don't know, like don't change their socks or something, or wash them.
Yeah, athletes and sports fans are all notoriously superstitious. That is true story.
Yeah.
Yes. And, there's lots of people that are. Like I said, my nanny was, God-fearing woman, but she was also very superstitious with just about everything. In fact, I wish we had written some of it down because some of it bordered on ridiculous. And my grandmother would, say how ridiculous some of the things she thought of, actually was. Yet my grandmother still wouldn't do laundry on guess what, on January 1st. So none of us would.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would do your wash after, before, right? No.
Or maybe a week later. Yeah. Yeah. But I just looked up the lyrics to that Knoxville Girl song that my nanny liked, and that is dark. And, I've talked about this with like my cousins before, and I guess you're right. That's a way of like entertaining. That was a way they entertained each other and scared each other. Yeah. And it's kind of like, we all still do that. It's fun to be scared a little. Yeah. And, we will tell stories around the campfire or whatever, that has kept going. Here it is, 100 years since Vance Randolph did his reporting, and we're still doing some of the same things. Arkansas people love to tell stories. Of course, that's what we're doing in this podcast is kind of retelling some of these tales that we've heard through the years, and our viewers have heard through the years. And it's just it's trying to keep these traditions alive, because if there's no one still telling these stories, then the stories die and they're not not told anymore. So I guess that's why I like folklore so well, and why I'm trying to become like a mini folklorist, I guess. And that's what I read in my spare time too. It's interesting to me, not so much the ghost aspect, but just folklore in general. I like a good ghost story, don't get me wrong, but I love to read and research about how Arkansas was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and what people were really like. So yeah.
Very superstitious.
Apparently they were very superstitious. Yeah. So this is the first part of several things I'm going to talk about. I have the second part already written out too. So part 2 will come at some point soon. So, but I hope everybody liked this one. I thought this one was pretty funny.
Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And now we have business to conduct.
Yeah, and banter. Business and banter. That's what we should call this part.
The 2 Bs.
Business. Yeah,
or are
business
we the
and
2
banter.
Bs?
Well, some people might think we're the 2 Bs. Yes.
Some days. Okay. business real fast so I don't forget, because I did like the last time. So, okay. So we do have some mail, listener mail. So this is shout out mail. Okay. So shout out to Donnie. So he sent,
Donnie.
he goes by Don.
Yeah. He goes by Don? Okay.
Don. Yes.
Hi, Don.
Hi, Don. We love you. So, yes, he sent like an awesome letter. And so we did mail him back.
Okay, cool.
And then also we got an awesome card. This was so cute. And I couldn't, this is terrible, but, Glass. Last name is Glass. And she wrote a little cute note. And it's just so sweet. So cute note from, I think it's a T. She has like very pretty cursive, but I could not figure out the first name.
Was it Tommy?
I don't think so.
Girls can be named. I know.
I mean, it really looks like, I don't know, Teld. I mean, it looks, yeah, I really can't. So it looks like a T though. And then the last name was Glass, and that was very, like, the Glass part I was definitely,
yes.
Tell.
So Mrs. Glass.
Mrs. Glass. And then also Lori and Sadie from Lakeview. Thank you so much.
Wow.
They dropped us a postcard. So yay. So, I haven't checked the mail in a while. So I'll be checking.
Now, where is Lakeview?
Oh, I will look that up, or you look that up. I've got two more things.
Okay.
Okay. So shout out. So this is shout out to Patreon. We've got two new
shout out to Patreon. You mean Patreon shout outs?
Yes. Backwards. Patreon shout outs of the week go to Katie. And Katie, I think she comes from Bentonville. Katie.
Oh, cool.
I love her. And then Beverly from Mountain Home. So these are the shout outs on this episode from Patreon.
Nice.
And so we really appreciate, like, if you join our Patreon, you can click on that and then join it for as low as $1, and you will definitely get some back, just insider information, full access to us. Yes, stuff that we, won't necessarily share all the time, but you're definitely going to get some fun stuff coming.
Right.
And everybody else will too, but you just get more if you're a patron of our art. And we really appreciate the patron.
Oh, I like it that when you say patron of our art, because this is our art. Yes. Okay. Is. So by the way, Lakeview is North Arkansas. And
North Arkansas?
I don't know why I didn't know that. I think we've played Lakeview, or my son has, for some kind of sporting something. I don't know why.
Like northeast or north?
It's like central north. It's like central north.
Like straight
north.
It
looks gorgeous. Oh, it's right in the Ozark. So hopefully they'll enjoy.
Yes.
Hopefully they'll enjoy this. And now, who are from Lakeview again?
Okay.
Let's put the right name with the right city. Yes.
Okay. Lakeview was Lori and Sadie.
Okay, Lori and Sadie from Lakeview.
Yes. Shout out.
Awesome. Awesome.
And we,
thank you so much.
So that kind of business wise, yes, Patreon, go check out the YouTube and subscribe. So our subscriptions, we've only been on YouTube for like a few weeks, so it's really going well. But please go out there and subscribe, and then also rate us on the Spotify and the Apple or wherever you're listening. So. And share it. Share it.
And share it. But also, if your local library or whatever wants to host a couple of really cool Unexplained Arkansas gals, then let us know. Yes, because we are looking for places to talk and kind of meet listeners and get more stories and ideas. And we're going to be like the new Chuck Dovish and be traveling Arkansas. Do you remember that show when we were kids?
I don't.
Okay, I'm going to send you like a ton of like YouTube videos after this.
Okay.
Yes, because I used to watch Chuck Dovish all the time I was a kid. Yes, and he had a show called Traveling Arkansas.
Okay.
Only we'll be traveling Arkansas, but with ghosts. Yeah. But there you go.
We're going to have ghosts with us? What?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Okay. To be determined.
To be determined, yes. Okay, so that's it. That's all we have today. Hopefully we didn't banter too much for those that are anti-banter. And
Does Amber sound salty? Oh my goodness.
I'm a little salty. I like to banter, but I mean, I know y'all don't want to hear every little thing about our personal lives. I'm not stupid.
But if you do, just call us.
But if
on
you do call me, call
me
me because yes.
Yes.
If you do want to hear our banter, you can definitely get on our Patreon because we do have like a direct like message. Yeah, we have like our little Facebook message chat thing where we just put ridiculous things on that. Like I was at a car wash last Saturday getting ready for prom I was getting the car ready for my son to take to prom, and I was in the car wash doing a video and I posted it on Patreon. Yeah, things like that.
So check it out.
Check it out. Yes. Okay. Well, that's it. That's all we have for this edition of Unexplained Arkansas. We will be back very soon with another episode, and we thank you for joining us.
Bye.